I know Houston just won against Jacksonville and they got their first win. Kudos to them. But I really see the Titans really stepping up and finishing this to make it 5-0. Welcome to the first ever episode of E on the Mic. I am your host E, aka Ethan, and I'm here for a brand new episode. Now, before we get into this episode today, I want to explain how E on the Mic has been created, what happened to Ethan and Mike. So, season 1, all 42 episodes. Wow. 42 episodes. I want to say first off, thank you, Mike, for being with me on this podcast for this long. I really, truly liked you as a co-host. You really made this fun for me as a host to bring on people such as Bogard, Morris, Joe Morley, everybody that I brought on, even Miles, for example. Shout out to Lamarck and Janae, especially for helping me with this podcast as well, and my closest friends. Thank you so much for that. Mike, if you're listening to this podcast, thank you so much for this. I've outgrown Ethan and Mike. I decided to go solo for this one. Mike is a great co-host. I will tell you that much. My experience, he's going to be a great sports journalist. I'll tell you that much, on the University of Miami. So shouts out to him. He will. Now, what you wonder about Mike will be back on this show as a guest when the time comes. Now, how soon? I don't know. How soon is a question mark up in the air. But Mike, if you're listening to this, thank you very much for starting all 42 episodes as Ethan and Mike. I know this is a surprise for most people that are watching this video right now, but E on the Mic is reality. Now, if you're wondering where the E came from, shouts out to Morris there as is a nickname that he's given me there. E. I remember this man on episode 25, actually, when he came on my show, was like, E, are you ready? I'm like, all right, bet, we are ready. I did the Adam Gase impression. But shouts out to Morris, man. I'll tell you that much. That man has been outgrowing me, but outgrowing as in passing me in certain levels. But that man, he's legitimate. I'll tell you that much. He's very legitimate of his craft. I'll tell you that much. I know he hasn't done much podcasts in a while, but I know for Morris, I'll definitely get him on against the Jets. That's one of the guesses, which will explain what the guesses will be like on E on the Mic. But shouts out to him. And shouts out to Mike on the Mike podcast for real. Because they're going to bring out the new logo for us right here. For this logo. It's going to be really good. I can't wait to show that in the upcoming future. But for now, it's going to be the current logo that is right now, E on the Mic. From the old show, Ethan and Mike, just changing it there. Now, if you're talking about guests, so what is to come in season 2 now? Season 2, right now, is still football season. Fastball just finished. My Miami Heat has lost to the Los Angeles Lakers 4-2. Shout out to LeBron James winning for Kobe. All Lakers fans, especially the podcasters that were ramping all over me saying there was going to be a sweep. It wasn't a sweep. Anyways, it was definitely not no sweep. But basketball season is over. It is now free agency. We'll see where that will come through during the upcoming months. But now football season is still alive right now. So during this episode, we will cover the fantasy starters for this football weekend. So stay tuned for that. Now, let's talk about the off season. So how the off season going to work? Off season is where we're going to bring music artists, my friends, or even people that you may be surprised I even bring onto the show. You never know who I can bring onto the show. It's always fun. Fanatics. I love my audience that has listened to me since day one. Day one audience, shout outs to you guys. And the newcomers here, fantasy starters. So, what is fantasy starters? Now, as my previous show, I used to be doing fantasy waiver wires. Now I'm kind of mixing it up as fantasy starters for this podcast right here. Now, wondering who to start? We're about to start that right now. So let's start off with quarterbacks. I like Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford has shown pretty impressive numbers during the weeks, and especially he's playing against the Jacksonville Jaguars, where their defense is very weak. They give a lot of points to Fitzpatrick, Deshaun Watson. So I really expect Matthew Stafford to really go off against Jacksonville. So if you have him in your bench or he's a free agent, pick him up if you're really struggling at quarterbacks. Now for Tannehill, man, Tannehill looked good on that Tuesday night. Let's not talk about Derrick Henry blocking the head, making that man Josh Norman look like, oh my God, that was a brutal hit. That was definitely a brutal hit. I'll tell you that much. But Tannehill, 3 touchdowns that game and a rushing touchdown. I expect him to keep doing that against Houston's defense. I know Houston just won against Jacksonville and they got their first win. Kudos to them. But I really see the Titans really stepping up and finishing this to make it 5-0. Running backs. Who do I have here? Gaskin is a good one to get because Gaskin last week he did pretty good against the 49ers. I think no one thought the 49ers was going to do great against Miami. They 43-17. That was a crazy number to do. But I really think Myles Gaskin is going to be a nice pickup there. If you don't have it on your start, I would recommend, especially since he's playing the Jets. And the Jets against running backs, they don't do well. So I thought the Jets defensive line has something, but I guess not. I think Adam Gase is not the answer for the Jets. Let's be real. But I will start Gaskin. If you don't have any other good running backs or they're in the bye week, like Kamara is at bye week. So I will put in Gaskin if you have him. Or even Miles Sanders against Baltimore. Now you might be questioning me like, but it's Baltimore defense, it's too much. Well, then again, if you look at Joe Mixon did have a pretty nice day with the catching. Not the running, obviously, but he got you some points. So I expect Miles Sanders to do the same thing, how Joe Mixon did last week. Miles Sanders is going to do pretty good if you have him on your starting lineup. The wide receivers. Now, since it's almost Halloween type of feel, it's October 15th as it's recorded. Scary Terry McLaurin, Washington. Now, why do I have him here? Now, I understand Dwayne Haskins was his favorite target. Now he's bench. Now you have Alex Smith was a good story to hear, but Kyle Allen's going to be the quarterback. So, but I really expect him to bounce back against this Giants defense. The Giants defense looks terrible. So I really see Scary Terry doing pretty good for you guys. I will say 100 yards and a touchdown. 100%. I really will think that. And another wide receiver to mention also, Jamison Crowder. Now, Crowder, although he has Joe Flacco, Sam Darnold's out, he was getting some touches from Joe Flacco. So I really expect Jamison Crowder, especially against Miami's defense, although Miami's defense did picked up last week, I still say Jamison Crowder is still going to get a touchdown because every time he's always on the field, they throw into him a lot of times. So he gets you some good fantasy points if your wide receivers are in a bye week. If you have him on your bench or he's somehow a free agent, pick him up. I'll tell you that much right now. My tight ends, Hawkinson, TJ Hawkinson from the Lions. Why do I say this? Jacksonville has struggled against the tight ends, as you saw Mike Gesicki against the Jacksonville Jaguars. He did pretty well against them. And then you have Matthew Stafford to pair him up with. So expect him to go off that game too. He's going to get a touchdown at least. But he's going to get you some yards and some fantasy points. I really, really see that. Jimmy Graham, not Jimmy Garoppolo. We don't talk about Garoppolo. Graham. Now, people make fun of Graham that, he's nothing. He's not the same. But he's been averaging 14 points a game. And they're playing against Carolina's defense. Definitely will put Jimmy Graham in the starting lineup. Flex. Now, the flex, Gallup. Now, I talked about this. I know the Rum Boys was talking about me too. Gallup ain't going to do nothing. But I see Gallup doing something actually. Andy Dalton with the last possession, let's say this, in the game against the Giants, did pretty well, came in clutch for the 2 plays right there to set up the game-winning field goal. I think Andy Dalton really likes Gallup, especially against his Arizona's defense, especially Cooper's going to get locked down and Lamb. but then you have Gallup there. So I will say Gallup is a good player to play. And then another player, a flex, Justin Jefferson. Now, I understand he did get 2 points last week against Seattle, which he should have got more. I wouldn't say that. But don't be afraid because he's playing against the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons defense has second or third string, or even people from the streets. It's like, wow, that's fancy points right there if you really think about that. I will pick in Justin Jefferson. If he's in your bench right now or you're struggling wide receiver, as I mentioned again, I will definitely put him up there as of right now. The defense, I would say my Finns defense, actually. Now, that's a shocker to say of my Finns defense, but especially against the Jets, 0-5, really struggle. They give the most points defense that ever plays against them. I say the Dolphins going to get a 9. If you have Dolphins defense, start them up. Start them up. As much as Dolphins defense looks all right now, trust me, I will put in Dolphins defenses right now. And then Pat's defense against the Broncos. Now, the Broncos have been struggling. Yes, the last time they played was against the Jets. But again, 2 of the bad teams of the AFC, not to mention that. But I think the Pats defense, although they're missing some key points, I think Pat's defense is going to do pretty well on the defensive side. Now, kickers, going right back to the Finns again, Jason Sanders. If you have him in his lineup, I will start him up. He got 22 points. Especially from last week, you got so many field goals you can't even count in your hands. Like, you'd probably be like 6, if I'm not mistaken, or less. I might be wrong, but hey, Jason Sanders was kicking field goals, especially for Miami. There's times Miami has struggled getting to touchdowns, but I really think Jason Sanders against the Jets, nice pickup for fantasy points if you really can. And then Young-Ho Koo versus the Vikings. Now, why do I say Koo? I think the Falcons, although you have Matt Ryan, you might get some touches. I think Koo will get a couple of field goals in there to help you in fantasy. And then another player I want to mention always, Blankenship. Blankenship on the Colts, don't sleep on him. There's so many leagues that there's like a couple of my leagues, no one has picked him up. Pick him up. Trust me, he gets a nice 14. He gets at least 10 points for you. At least 10 points. That can determine a win or loss for you in fantasy. So I will trust in that guy right there if you want to win this Sunday. Now my little tradition, as I did in my last show, Floridian Picks. Floridian Picks is still the same thing. I choose 3 matchups and see who wins that matchup. And also shouts out through Thrive Vice Fantasy supporting the last podcast. I'm going to make sure that you're going to support this podcast as well. We're going to do a change there. But if you want right now to go, promo code is Ethan and Mike from the last episode, from the last season, really. But they are still sponsoring us for the football season. So trust me, go up, over or under. Trust me, you won't regret it at all. You put down 20, you get 20 back. So win-win for both. But then we're going right back to Floridian Picks. So who do I have in these matchups here? I got the Jets and the Dolphins. Now, let's take two teams right here. The Jets and Dolphins. The Dolphins came off of a good win against the 49ers. Pretty impressive. 43-17. I was amazed by that. Trust me, I didn't barely even scream at that game, That's how you know it was a good game, besides penalties, some dumb penalties. But then the Jets, 30-10, very disappointing there. The Cardinals was dominating the game at most. Joe Flacco did get a touchdown to Jamison Crowder, as I did mention, for fantasy. But I just think the Dolphins have too much, and the Dolphins going to win against the Jets. Now, how much do I say? It's always going to be a close one. These two teams always have a close one each year. So I'm going to go. It's going to be a high-scoring game. Let's not be joking here. 36-20. 36-20 seems like a legitimate number that I really see. Because both of these teams always struggle against each other every year. There's always a neck and neck. No matter if we're down or they're down, there's always a neck and neck. Although Adam Gase, I don't see Adam Gase winning this in South Florida. Let's be real. But then let's go to this key matchup on Monday night. Our first Monday night here, 5 o'clock. Bills versus Chiefs. This was technically supposed to be on Thursday, the day that I'm recording this right now. Now, the Bills are coming off from a blowout loss to the Titans, 42-16, 42-17, my mistake there, but they didn't look good at all. I think they're going to rebound, but let's go to the Chiefs' perspective. They did lose to Joe Morley's Raiders. Bogart with the misinformation in that podcast right there in the last episode of that season. Bogart, what happened, man? I know you're probably listening to this part right here. What happened to your Niners? But back to the Chiefs, though. The Chiefs did pretty good. They did get stopped by the Raiders. The Raiders was too much for the Chiefs. I think against the Pats game, really saw the key points of stopping Mahomes. So it's gonna be very interesting here. I still see Mahomes coming over the Bills just by 3 points, high scoring, 30-27. I just think Mahomes is gonna be too much for the Bills defense because the Bills defense got exposed against the Titans. Okay, I know the Titans. I know people are saying, "Oh, the Titans look weak because they play 1-3 team against a 4-0 Bills." I don't know, but I got the Chiefs winning by 3 points. It's gonna be a close one. Definitely gonna be a close one. Not gonna be a blowout. I'll tell you that much. Now, the last one I got for you guys here is this: Dallas versus the Cardinals. Now, who do I have this game? Let's take both sides. Dak Prescott did went down for Dallas, which I prayers for him. He's will be out for 46 months. He's out for the season period. But I made sure how long that is. That's longer than the Super Bowl, so that's not happening. He's not gonna come back. But Andy Dalton is a nice replacement, especially to help this Dallas team. They're 2-3, and their division is up in the air. Really, they're the leaders right now, 2-3, and then the Eagles and the Giants. Somehow the Giants still have a managed, even though they haven't even won a game yet. They're still in there somehow, some way. Now you look at the Cardinals; they came off an impressive win. Same thing with Dallas; they came back and winning for Dak, 37-34 to mention that. But back to the Cardinals, as I mentioned against the Jets, they did impressively, 30-10. Kyler Murray did pretty well against the Jets defense with D Hop. Now for both teams, this is gonna be, I think it's gonna go a shootout, and it's gonna come down to a field goal again. It's gonna be, I'm gonna say 37-34 Cardinals actually. As much as I really want this for Dak, especially for the Cowboys, I don't see it. I think Kyler Murray is gonna do pretty well with D Hop. Now to stop the Cardinals, you gotta stop D Hop. Period. That's how you're gonna win this game. Period. Because Panthers really stopped Hopkins right there. Although he had 7 catches, they stopped it completely, and the Cardinals didn't look the same after that game. So key points there. And then the Cowboys defense, if they can step up, then it's going to be a close game. But if they don't step up, then the Cardinals have this for certain. But I think it's going to be a shootout for both of these teams right there. But this is going to conclude episode 1, Eat on the Mic. Thank you guys for listening. I appreciate you all for listening to this and for this new transition to this podcast, Eat on the Mic, season 2, episode 1. Thank you guys so much. And then there will be an interview next week. So stay tuned for that. Until then, take care, guys, and have a good day.